So today we will study the food contamination. So first of all, food contamination. Food contamination. So the food contamination means any foreign material or substance that induce foodborne illnesses is known as food contamination. So food contamination is any foreign material or substance that induce foodborne illnesses is known as food contaminant, or the presence of unwanted substances on food can lead to foodborne illnesses. Okay. Food contamination may be a foreign material or a substance that induce foodborne illnesses, or the presence of unwanted substance on food that can lead foodborne illnesses. So as a member of food industry, as a member of the food industry, it is the responsibility it is the responsibility of food handlers to provide best practices to control food contamination. ठीक है, it is the responsibility of food handler, which is the member of food industry, to provide best practices to control food contamination. So food contamination can occur any point during food supply chain. So food contamination can occur at any stage during food supply chain. So it is the responsibility of food safety it is the responsibility of food safety manager to avoid food contamination away from preparation and delivery area. So what is food contamination? Firstly, we will study the definition of food contamination. Food contamination means any foreign material or substance that induce foodborne illnesses. It may be the presence of unwanted substances on food that can lead to foodborne illnesses. So as a member of food industry, it is the responsibility of food handler to provide best practices to control food contamination. The process of food contamination can occur at any point during food supply chain. So it is the responsibility of food safety manager to provide best practices to avoid food contamination away from preparation and delivery area. Next is food contamination is of three types. First is biological contamination. Second is chemical contamination. And third class is physical contamination. Firstly, we will study the biological contamination. Biological contamination means the presence of harmful microorganisms such as bacteria, molds, yeast, viruses, and parasites. These harmful microorganisms are collectively known as pathogens. So, depending on the level of contamination by these pathogens, the effect of diseases is ranged from mild problems such as nausea to life threatening food borne illnesses. So, there are three types of food contaminants. First is biological contaminants, second is chemical contaminants, and third one is the physical contaminants. Okay, this do not include allergens and radiological contaminants. Radiological or allergens are not included in food contaminants. So first we will study biological contamination. Biological contamination means presence of harmful microorganisms such as bacteria, mold, yeast, and viruses and parasites. These harmful microorganisms are collectively known as pathogens. So the on the basis of level of contaminations, these pathogens are ranged from mild problems such as nausea to life-threatening foodborne illnesses. Okay, so examples of microorganisms, which top 5 microorganisms which cause which cause foodborne illnesses are: first is norovirus, second is salmonella, third is clostridium perfringens, fourth is campylobacter, fifth is staphylococcus aureus. These are the top 5 microorganisms which mainly cause food contaminations. Okay, next is under favorable conditions, these microorganisms will produce under temperature favorable conditions. These microorganisms produce acid which low pH of product, which is responsible for bad smell, change in colors, and change in check texture. So this is the indicative of, these are the indicative of food spoilage. Not safe food spoilage means not safe for consumption. So the microbial contamination can be controlled by proper safety practices and constant monitoring. This can be controlled, microbial contamination can be controlled with proper food safety practices and by constant monitoring. So it is the responsibility of food safety manager to constant monitor or provide safety practices for to avoid the process of food contaminations. So we will revise this biological contaminants. So the biological contaminants means the presence of harmful microorganisms such as bacteria, mold, yeast, viruses, and parasites. So these harmful microorganisms are known as pathogens. So on the basis of level of contaminants, the effect of these pathogen is ranged from mild problems such as nausea to life threatening foodborne illnesses. So the example of microorganism, top 5 microorganism which mainly causes the infection is norovirus, salmonella, clostridium, campylobacter, streptococcus aureus. So under the favorable conditions, temperature favorable conditions, these microorganisms produce acid which lower the pH of the product, which is responsible for bad smell, change in color and texture. These are the indicative of food spoilage, so not safe for consumption. This can be controlled by provide proper foods control safety practices or by constant monitoring. This is the responsibility of food safety manager. So next class is chemical contaminants. Chemical contaminants. So the means chemical contaminants means the presence of unwanted chemicals in food. So these may be a cleaning solutions, they may be fertilizer residues, or they can be pesticides, pesticides or industrial oils, additives, or byproduct of any reactions. So on the basis of origins, these chemical contaminants are categorized into industrial contaminants, agricultural toxic heavy metals, natural, or last one is preservatives. The preservative which were added to our food for the process of preservation, they can be uh, act as a chemical contaminants if they were exceed from certain limits. So these compounds we introduce in food through improper use or storage. Improper storage and use of these chemicals is directly responsible for food chemical contamination in foods. Sometimes in the utensils, when we were washing our utensils, there are certain chemicals which were left over into in the utensils. So that leftover chemicals are also responsible for food contaminants. So the third class is physical contaminants. Physical contaminants. So the physical contaminants is the unwanted foreign material on food. They may cause injuries, bleedings, choking, and many more problems. So that these unwanted foreign materials are mainly bone fragments, or it may be hairs and pit stems and many modes. So these physical contaminants are not commonly used contaminants. Only the biological contaminants are the normally contaminants which spoil food. Thank you.